We are going to bring on Tim Reynolds, our good friend who has Capital Region ties, and not the circumstances I wanted to bring you on here, partner. But, Tim, thanks for a few minutes with the Associated Press, covers the Miami scene and covers the Miami Marlins as well. Tim Reynolds, Roger Weiland, good morning.
Good morning, Roger. It's been too long, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Absolutely. I appreciate you popping on. I know this is not an easy time for anybody, but where do you even start with this when you cover the Marlins, you're in the Miami area? Where do you start when you hear news that Jose Fernandez is dead at the age of 24?
Well, I mean, you've been in this business a long time too, and I have now as well, but you get the news yesterday. I guess we first started hearing rumors about 8:45, and then you immerse yourself in the story, and you get so numb to it that it's like, okay, it's just words on a screen, and you're not really processing what you're writing. And at the end of the day yesterday, I went into Dolphins and then came back home, and then the enormity of it hits you when you finally are done working, and you realize that our city lost a giant yesterday. And let me tell you something. This is a city that isn't always divided, isn't always united on stuff. This city, top to bottom, is an absolute mourning. And this is, forget what this means for the Marlins, what this means for baseball and all that. This devastated Miami yesterday. We've got a strong Cuban influence here, of course, as everybody knows. This guy was their hero. And the Dwayne Wade leaving the Heat and Chris Bosh being, going through his stuff, that's all major things to the city, but you move on from those. This one, it's going to take Miami a long, long time to recover.
Tim, you covered him and you've interviewed him. I mean, what kind of young man was he, Fernandez? I know every time I see him and you see a picture of him, there's always a big smile on his face. I know that. He
was, even in times like in the clubhouse when, just in those moments in the clubhouse where he's just around his guys and we're all sort of like, blending into the background, if you will. He was a goofball. He was always happy, always smiling, always running around. I never saw him sit still. Even in the dugout during games, he always had to be on the move. High energy. You talked about the phrase full of life. That was him. He loved being part of that baseball team. He loved being part of the city. He wanted to be the guy who always lightened the mood. And then if you gave him baseball, then you saw the mood change. And that's when he got serious, was every 5 days. And he threw a baseball as well as anyone in the major leagues has. Even in that short sample size of 4 years, you can't deny what he's done on the mound. But you get him away from the mound, and he was just one of the happiest, most fun-loving guys you were going to find. And I was trying to think of a comparison, because trying to think of a comparison that Albany might relate to. I really can't. And there's been, obviously we've had some fun people in Albany too, and I can't find the parallel. I really can't. This guy was truly, if he wasn't one of a kind, he was one of a very, very, very small kind.
Tim, Zach By joining Roger in studio this morning on Big Board Sports. Do we know any further details on the crash other than they just were at a high speed, into a jetty? Is that all we know?
Yeah, for the most part, that's all we know. We know that, autopsies were being performed and the names of the other two individuals, his two friends, came out. There's some minor details. The owner of the boat wasn't on the boat, and one of the TV stations here got a copy of some text messages that suggested that, some of their friends were concerned that they were going out so late, but they promised them they'd be fine. But it doesn't really tell you anything. We don't know. We don't know anything yet, and it's going to be, before you get the medical stuff back, it's going to be days for the first batch and then weeks for the second batch, and right now, even if they did announce it, I don't think the city would even be able to process it. Mm. It's going to be just there's a baseball game tonight that means a lot. There's a baseball game tonight there where the Mets are trying to keep their spot in the wild card race. Mets games are always real big here because of all the New York people that live down in this area now. They're all the snowbirds that never left and that sort of thing. And it's just so tough to process anything right now. Even if there was news, I'm not sure people would notice. But right, to answer your question, Zach, we don't know a whole lot.
All right. I mean, have they, and again, the news, I'm sure, will be coming out in days, but have they ruled out alcohol or drugs or has any of that been in any story whatsoever anywhere?
Yeah, it was in ours yesterday. It was in some others. The initial indication was that none of that was involved.
Okay.
Which to me would only indicate that they didn't find bottles or something on the boat.
Right.
There's going to be no way of knowing until they get through the autopsy and toxicology and all that. And typically the toxicology stuff takes at least a couple of weeks. Luckily, man, we do sports, so luckily we don't have to deal with this stuff too often. But been my experience in the past that toxicology results take at least a couple of weeks to come back. So nothing definitive, but the initial investigation suggested that probably wouldn't be a factor.
We are talking with Tim Reynolds from the Associated Press covering Miami sports and had to cover the death and write about the death of 24-year-old Jose Fernandez. Tonight, the Mets, as you mentioned, Tim, go into Miami to play the Marlins. What kind of a tribute are they going to be doing before this game tonight?
Still kind of evolving. I mean, obviously there's going to be a moment of silence, and I'm assuming MLB will permit them to have his number on the field. I thought I'm getting like 2-inch goosebumps right now just telling you this, but I thought one of the greatest tributes yesterday, Poppy declining the ceremony in Tampa, and the Mets putting up the jersey in the clubhouse. I just thought they were just two of the greatest things. And in the dugout, rather. And the Mets say that they're bringing the Jose jersey to put in their dugout tonight here. And I just think that's tremendous. And it's those things. I think the tribute will go on throughout the game. I would imagine it's going to be a very subdued atmosphere here. They are anticipating a larger than usual crowd. Marlins games typically don't draw very well, as everybody knows, but Mets games always do. And I think tonight people just want to go. I think people just want to go and be there. They just want to be part of, if we're all going to be in pain, I think a lot of people want to go and just be part of that pain. I think it's be around other people and try to strengthen numbers. It's got to be on, I guess Adam, start for the Marlins tonight. How do you want to be that guy tonight, throw the first pitch of this baseball game when it should be Jose doing it? I just can't even imagine.
Well, I totally agree with you on what the Mets did yesterday with the jersey, and then they went out and won 17-0 against the Philadelphia Phillies. But I know Terry Collins had a good relationship with, obviously, Jose Reyes, who'll be coming back to Miami tonight. So a lot of that will be taking place before the game. And in terms of where you projected him, I mean, I guess maybe, Tim, outside of Clayton Kershaw, would you say that Fernandez was the best pitcher in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, to me, he was right there. It's all subjective, but this guy, his numbers at home, anybody can look at a stat sheet and say his numbers at home are unbelievable. I think he was like 27-2 with a 1.49. And this is a pitcher's park here in Miami, sure. But this guy would throw 98 in the seventh inning all the time. He was unhittable here. And he just, he took that attitude on the road. He was just going to come after you. I mean, he wasn't a thrower, guys. He didn't craft, as the word is with pitching nowadays. He would just go at you. And if I was a baseball guy who had a Game 7, had to pick one pitcher to win it, if I had Kershaw or Jose, either way, I'd like my chances a whole lot, probably just about as well as anybody in baseball. And there's some great ones in baseball right now, but he was the guy who gave the Marlins hope of winning every fifth day. And he's something this franchise needed, and what they do going forward, forget what it's going to be in terms of wins and losses, what they're going to do going forward. I mean, he was their team. This was it. I know Stanton's got the contract and, the home run numbers and all that. This was the Miami Marlins. And this kid was them. And I can't even imagine. It's just going to take so long for them to get over it.
Tim, one more question before we let you go, and there's no easy way to segue, but we'll try here, and it's a different degree of somberness, but somber nonetheless. It's coming out this morning that Pat Riley said that Chris Bosh's career with the Heat is likely over. You're at Media Day, I think, physically right now. And again, we appreciate you taking a couple minutes. What do you take away from those comments? And do you think, in your opinion, you're as tied to the Miami Heat as anyone out there? Is Chris Bosh's days of playing in the NBA over entirely?
Well, they are. I think so. I said that in February. And that's not even before I knew, the severity of the second time. We knew the clot last year went to his lungs. We didn't know it this year until the last few days. And when he said he got a CT scan, that only indicates that they were concerned that a clot that was already found in his leg had traveled elsewhere. And he said the CT scan confirmed it. So without saying it, Chris really showed his cards last week and basically told the world that a clot was found in the upper body, which in his case would have meant the lung. You can't play on players. I know hockey guys have. I know he says other athletes have. Chris has got 5 children, and he's got $76 million still coming to him. And I just pray he gets well. And nobody wants to go out on their terms, but I just cannot foresee any NBA team in saying it's a prudent choice right now to put him on the basketball court, knowing that he faces the ultimate risk. And guys, as a quick aside, it's not the same deal. Eric Spoelstra, the Heat coach, was the opposing point guard in the game that Hank Gathers collapsed. So this hits home to the Heat on a whole lot of levels.
Tim Reynolds.
You're right. Not the same as Jose, but Zach, Roger, it does remind you that life is really precious and really short.
No doubt. Tim Reynolds, Associated Press, we appreciate a few minutes. Hopefully next time under better storylines than what we have here this morning. But thanks for popping on Big Board Sports, and we'll talk to you soon, Tim. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Tim Reynolds from the Associated Press on the passing of Jose Fernandez. It shocked everybody yesterday morning in a boat accident, age 24.